Are D&D players about to pay more for less?
Well, that was a catastrophic mistake.
This week, Wizards of the Coast announced a $10 price hike to all of its future D&D rulebooks, starting with Bigby Presents Glory of the Giants. Now, that news has gone over like a lead balloon among a lot of consumers, although I will point out that some smaller publishers are actually expressing relief that finally D&D rulebook prices are increasing, which allows them to increase the price on their rulebooks, which, have much smaller print runs and thus smaller margins, so they're finally able to actually make a little bit of money. And, my stance is always root for the little guys. Now, if you've been following the tabletop industry for a while, you know that inflation has forced a lot of companies to make some tough decisions on their retail prices. This is an apples versus oranges situation, I know, but for instance, the Pokemon trading card game, they recently increased the price of their card packs by about 25%, from $4 to $5. But they offset this by putting more rare and chase cards in every pack. So basically it was a way to soften the blow for all those kids who are blowing their allowances on Pokemon cards. So keeping that in mind, it comes as a little bit of a surprise that the description for Bigby Presents includes mention of only one subclass, that being the Path of the Giant Barbarian. Now, when the Path of the Giant Barbarian was playtested last year, it was packaged with a Primeval Circle Druid and a Runecrafter Wizard. Now, it seems like it's possible that those two subclasses were replaced by some more general feats. The description for Bigby Presents actually mentions that there will be 8 new feats in general, and we know that D&D is shifting more towards a feat-based system. And we're also getting a pair of backgrounds, which again, useful because D&D wants backgrounds to be a bigger deal. But it seems like some of the character creation options that fans were expecting in that book are now gone. This kind of ties into a bigger problem that we've seen out of the D&D books that Wizards has put out over the last few years. D&D has kind of struggled with balancing player options with DM options in some of their recent books. And that's because part of their design philosophy and their publishing philosophy is they want to have at least a little of something for everyone in every book they publish. Now, at least the loud parts of the internet, and I don't know if that is a fair representative of the average person who buys a D&D book, but there are complainers who have complained that a lot of the recent Wizards D&D books aren't really satisfying because what they're actually getting in those books. Take Spelljammer. First new Spelljammer book that we've gotten in 30 years. 3 books of Spelljammer books, and what's in them? A handful of races, one of which was racist and, had to be, errated immediately. No new ship rules. They just regurgitated the Saltmarsh ship rules and said, oh, do it in space, and a mini adventure. For Dragonlance, well, we got some admittedly unique takes on feats. We got those feat trees, which were interesting. Not exactly new, but interesting for 5e. We got a couple of new races and subclasses, and then we got 30 pages of Dragonlance setting summary before, frankly, a kind of weird adventure. I was a little too focused on Lord Soth's mopiness than the actual wartime struggle and adventure and, the entire point of what D&D wanted Dragonlance to be all about. Now, you could argue that Wizards is focusing their design team's energy and, productivity on the 2024 rulebooks, but, the last couple of years of D&D rulebooks, there's not been a lot of, character options. There's not been a lot of expansions. There's just been a lot of fluff and adventures, which adventures are fun, but there needs to be more. Compare what Wizards puts out compared to what publishers like Kobold Press or Darrington Press puts out. Each Kobold rulebook has dozens, if not hundreds, of spells and feats and subclasses and new races, and they put out full campaign setting books which go and take each location and say, here is what's in this location, here is a good story hook for this location, here is something cool, and even if it's just, for, like, you pass by this place on the world, that really helps fill it out. That makes the DM's life a lot easier. Now, not every book that a publisher like Kobold puts out is going to make sense for every table. Your buyer base is going to be smaller because, the Grand Book of Magic or whatever it's called, doesn't really make sense for someone who likes to play as fighters. But the folks who do buy that book there's a much higher rate of satisfaction, which means that those people who buy the book think that they're getting more content for their buck.
Oh, it's true! It's damn true!
Now, my biggest concern is that the upcoming Planescape book, which, Planescape is one of the things that I love most about D&D, is going to wind up kind of like the Spelljammer box set, where folks not only are disappointed by what they get, it also doesn't really capture the coolness of that setting. Spelljammer is really cool and really weird, and what we got in that box set didn't reflect that at all. And Planescape is like 1,000 times cooler than Spelljammer. And it seems like D&D wants Planescape to be the framework for the D&D multiverse going forward. And it should. That's literally what Planescape is all about. It's about the planes. It's about the multiverse. And so people really need to be wowed by that setting so they get excited for what's to come. They should be excited by the weird character options. They should be excited by the setting and the potential of what that world and what those worlds should offer. Anyways, with a $60 price point, in general, Wizards of the Coast should start looking more at what goes into their books and make sure that the value matches the sticker price. Otherwise, you're just going to see more and more upset fans and more people who think that, I'm not going to buy that D&D book. I'm not going to, get every book that Wizards of the Coast has available. Maybe I'm going to check out this publisher. Maybe I'm going to check out Pathfinder. Maybe I'm just, going to stick with what I have. Anyways, let us know what you think about this upcoming D&D rulebook and what you think about the $60 price point in the comment section. And don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons.